All right, let's start with our initial prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Okay, the imperfect tense. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention Monday, I sent out a bunch of links for various Latin videos on YouTube. Do try and take a look at some of them. There was one that was ecclesiastical Latin phrases, worth a look, common phrases in the liturgy. And then the other one was the Minecraftium, pun on Minecraft, which is a very popular game. I play it, by the way. It's kind of like Legos for, well, I was going to say Legos for adults, but since all ages play it, I should say digital Legos. The woman that does that does a very nice job. She uses the Minecraft world, the virtual world, to take you through various things. Her pronunciation is classical, but don't let that throw you. There's only a few places where you may not even necessarily know it or notice it that much. She will say magistra, hard G. We would say magistra, the feminine form. But anyway, it's a good way to kind of do low level Latin, basic Latin, listening to it and absorbing it. And she both put up the words and kind of lead you through it. So yeah, if you got time, definitely, it's worth definitely going through. But with that in mind, the imperfect tense. Okay. The imperfect combines something that happened in the past, but it refers to a continuing state or repeated event or state. So what does that all mean? In English, we would say, I was walking to the store when Godzilla attacked the city, okay? Or I used to walk to the store before the store burned down, or something like that. What it indicates is the pure past tense form, which is called the perfect, generally refers to a single completed event in the past. Like I walked to the store, that over and done with, that completed, versus I was walking to the store. So usually the imperfect is used often in conjunction with some other event where you're going through a sequence of events. It can be used as the past tense in Latin, or at least I've seen it used that way. You can use it as a simple past tense in some cases. You'll see that in Jerome's Vulgate occasionally. But usually if you're strictly past tense is something called the perfect form. Anyway, good examples of the imperfect tense. I was reading a good book. I was reading a good book when you interrupted me, meaning the interruption occurred right now in the present, and I was doing something before then. I used to go out more often before COVID. That kind of dates that. By the way, this this particular slide is from last year's class, so I just basically copied them over. But it also, as I said, it also implies a repeated action. I use to go out more often. We have it in a number of places in the liturgy. In the Gloria Patri, sicut erat in principio, as it was in the beginning. If you go back to the the Gloria there. And then, of course, the famous last gospel. If you go to the Latin Mass, the traditional Latin Mass, I guess we should call it these days. In principio erat verbum, et verbum erat apud Deum, et Deus erat verbum. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word. So, does not mean that God isn't the Word anymore, okay? You can't state necessarily that the action has totally stopped. Anyway, the good news about this imperfect tense is it is super regular across all four conjugations. You can't say that for the other tenses. They're close, but they're not quite as regular. So for the present tense, if you remember, we had the O, the ST musticent. And for the passive endings, we had the OR, the ris, the tour, the more, the mini, and the intour. To get to the perfect tense, just add a ba after the conjugation vowel. So maybe we should call this the Beach Boys tense. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Although I'll give you a hint about Baba Ran. Oh, actually, Maria, wasn't there a Filipino, I don't know what you call it, that had a bunch of babas chained together?
Yes, one syllable, baba baba. Me translated is, are you going down? And then the other person will answer, baba ba, and which means, yes, I'm going down.
Okay. I'll have to look up a few of those. Well, actually, I have one in Latin similar to that. Not one syllable, though. I have to admit, one syllable, the one syllable is pretty good. So anyway, so you can, all right, remember it that way, your choice. But really, anyway, what you do is you take the like we did with the active voice, we took the verb root, the verb vowel, and added these. All we got to do now is stick a ba in there before those. And we don't have the O, we're going to use the M flavor. And for the passive, it's the exact same thing, only we put the ba in there and then we use the passive endings. So it's really, really, really easy to do that. Oh, interesting. A Vietnamese beer called Ba 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 333. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Anyway, I wanted to, this chart is actually not in the notes, but I went ahead and threw it in anyway. Because we have had the verb to be. We had it in the present, sum est, sumus est, sunt. But also the imperfect, eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. No, there's no ba in there. Okay, the verb to be is totally irregular, as it is in every language that I've ever studied. I just thought I would drop this in there to kind of refresh everybody's memory. And yes, after we are done with the imperfect, we are going to tackle the future. But for the imperfect active form, as, at, amus, atus, ant. So it does parallel, whoops.
Yeah.
It does
Yeah.
parallel the other verb conjugations.
You just move, you take off the ER
Yeah,
and they start the B.
yep. So, as I said, bam, bas, bat, bamus, batus, bant. You can see that you just stick a B in front or a ba in front of everything. Bor, bar, whoops. Yeah, bar, batus, batur, bamur, bamini, bantur. As I said, the first person is a little bit different because you go from an O to an M, and this you drop the O and you have the R. On the other hand, it's pretty easy to remember that because you have that A in there and in all the other ones. So as I said, think Beach Boys or Vietnamese beer, your choice. All right, so what do we have here? Okay. Laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatus, to praise, to laud. So imperfect active, take laud, L-A-U-D. It's a laudare, first conjugation, so we take an A. We take the ba, and then we add our usual endings. So laudabam, I was praising. Laudabamus, we were praising. Also, you can translate as we used to praise. Laudabas, thou wert praising. Laudabat, he, she, it was praising. Laudabatus, y'all were praising. And laudabant, they were praising. Similar pattern with the passive. Laudabar, oh, there's Teresa. I guess she got held up in traffic.
Oh.
All right, where was I? Well, we'll give her a second to get her microphone connected. There we go. All right, laudabar, I was being praised. Remember, passive means it's not the subject that's doing the action, it's rather the subject is the recipient of the action, if you will. Laudabaris, thou wert being praised. Laudabatur, he, she, it was being praised. Laudabamur, we were being praised. Laudabamini, y'all were being praised, and laudabantur, they were being praised. So is there any questions so far? Because we're gonna mark this unit is pretty rich in information. And we're basically learning one tense, active and passive, 4 conjugations. So it's like learning 8 new paradigms. So I want to make sure everybody's kind of ingests it or digests it. All right. Well, Teresa, that's what I said when I saw you come in. I said, I bet she was held up in traffic. Just happened to be internet traffic, not, highway traffic. All right. Second conjugation, dideo, videre, vidi, visus. And by the way, if you try and make, that is a video, vd. So when we say, it's rather unfortunate when we say,
Weenie, weenie, weenie.
yeah, it's, well, that's unfortunate too. So, so you say video, vides, vd. There's another one, actually, the one I was thinking of was venio. or venio, sorry. The E is short in venio, venire. The E is short when it is present, and it is long when it is perfect. So really, we shouldn't say veni, veni, Emmanuel. We really ought to say veni, veni, Emmanuel. But again, you're singing it, and it's very hard to make a vowel short, at least amongst those whose native language is probably English, or even most of the Indo-European languages. But anyway, getting off tense. So imperfect active, the root is the vid, just like the present. And we add the E because it is in second conjugation, an ERE, and then we add the ba and the same endings. So videbam, videbas, videbat. I was seeing, thou wert seeing, he, she, it was seeing. Videbamus, we were seeing. Videbatus, you were seeing. Videbant, they were seeing. Same rule with the passive. The difference, of course, is you stick the passives on the very endings on the very end.
Is that supposed to be vide bar?
You know what? Let me look. You know what? That is wrong. There we go. Did I
Okay.
make that in the same? Oh, okay. I didn't do that. Good. I didn't do that in the other one. Yes. It is vide bar.
Because it's the
Vide
O.
bor you will find is the future passive,
Mhm.
but we haven't gotten there yet. You were going to say something else, Alex?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say what you just said.
Yeah, thank you. Vide bar, vide baris, vide batur, vide bamur, vide bamini, vide bantur. So again, same basic. Oops. Oh, hold on now. We zoomed in again. Zoom. Fit. Okay, there we go. Third conjugation. Exact same pattern. Take the root. In this case, we do take the short E. And for the purposes of the imperfect, we make it a long E. So I said the third conjugation has a split personality. Sometimes it's closer to the second conjugation. Sometimes it's closer to the the fourth conjugation. My theory is the ancient grammarians of antiquity took 2 and 4 and averaged it and got 3 and figured out that's where we'll put this one. So duce bam, duce bas, duce bat, duce bamus, duce batus, duce bant. For singular and plural active, passive, duce bar, I was being led, duce baris, thou wert being led, duce batur, he, she, it was being led, duce bamus, we were leading, duce batus, you, oops, sorry, I jumped, active to back to the active there. Duce bamur, we were being led. Duce bamini, you were being led. Duce bantur, they were being led.
The amazing thing to me is that they don't have the UNT in this third or in the fourth.
No, they don't. Well, none of them have it in the imperfect because they all put
That's what I mean. Yeah, in either passive or either active or passive, they drop that UNT business altogether for the third and fourth.
Right. Right. And in fact, if they put a U in there, then it would be future tense, but we'll get to that.
So we get to be confused a little later on.
Later on, you get to be confused. Yes. Yes, you're not allowed to be confused up till this point. Okay. Yes, some of us are ahead of the game. I understand completely. Okay, copio, the IO third conjugation verbs. They're exactly the same as the third conjugation ERE, but because they're an IO, well, we got to put any I in there. So I think hopefully it should be easy to remember that it has that extra I in there. And so we just continue that all the way through the imperfect here.
Michael,
Oh, excuse me. Yes.
how often is it that, and I know I'm getting a little ahead, but how often is it that the third conjugation IO and the fourth conjugation are exactly the same? It seems like this is the only one that I've seen where the endings are exactly the same. The IE part.
Well, okay. There's copio, audio, copus, audis. So in the present, they're the same endings. Let's see, am I missing any? Copio, audio, copis,
present.
audis, capit, audit, capimus, audimus, capitis, audit. No, they're all the same in the present.
Yeah, maybe it's the future I was thinking of.
The future is a little more interesting. So, which is a good thing. We have something to look forward to. So anyway, copie bam, copie bas, copie bat. Copie bamus, copie batus, copie bant. And again, you can translate this as we were talking or we used to talk. In English, we make some distinctions that Latin does not really drill down as deeply as perhaps English does. So what you need to kind of do is look at the context of the sentence. If we were to say often we were talking, okay, or often we used to talk. Again, context, depending upon what the rest of the whole paragraph, so to speak, is. All right, copie bar, I was being taken, copie baris, copie batur, ishi, it was being taken, copie bamur, we were being taken, copie bamini, you were being taken, copie bantur, they were being taken. And also, a better translation of copio might be to grasp. And the nice thing about that is you can refer to that. Okay, let's take the word grasp for a moment. When you grasp something, I can grasp your hand. I could grasp your shirt or your coat or your hat. But we also use it in the abstract sense where you grasp an idea. Mm-hmm. And copio is used very similarly. It can mean to, pardon?
To understand?
Yes, to understand, to grasp a concept, to understand this concept. It can also mean to capture. So in the sense of taking something like, such and such an army took such and such a city. Well, you could use the word copio as in take or capture. So it's a rather useful word.
Michael?
Yes.
Oh, just the comment I made a minute ago, what I was thinking about was the passive present, that second person singular. And that's where the two differ. The third conjugation IOO, the IO and the fourth conjugation. The caperis versus the auderis.
Oh, in the passive, yes.
Yeah,
They do
I was
differ.
trying to remember that
Yes.
that there was one of the conjugations where the third and fourth are not exactly alike. They're exactly alike in all other respects except for the second person singular.
Right, passive.
Right. Present passive.
Yeah. Yep. Well, they're identical in the present active.
Right. When I was thinking about how this was unusual that they were the same, I was thinking about the last thing we were
Right.
covering, which is the passive.
Right. Yeah. And this one, on the other hand, is a little bit closer to the second conjugation in this form. All right. Fourth conjugation, IRE verbs, audio. Oh, no, wait a minute. Sorry. I was going to go back to this. Captus. That's where we get our word captive. Captus is the passive participle, which means captus, to have been taken, to have been grasped, to have been captured. So we have echoes of this word in English all over the place. All right. Audio, audire, audivi, auditus. Same pattern. Take the base, add the IE here, add the ba. And so, as Alex already noted, fourth conjugation, imperfect, active and passive, is identical to third conjugation, active and passive IO verbs. So, and it's kind of easy to remember this. Capio, it's got the I. It is an IO verb. And audio is, it's already got the I for you. So hopefully, shouldn't be too hard to remember. Audiebam, I was hearing. Audiebamus, we were hearing. Audiebas, thou were hearing. Audiebatus, you were hearing. Audiebat, he, she, it was hearing. Audiebant, they were hearing. By the way, I hope you're at least repeating these yourselves silently, or if your microphone is off, audibly. It helps to reinforce that. And of course, I'm going to tell you to write these forms out as many times as you can. One of these days, I will dig out my old Latin notes and photograph a piece. I'm sure I've got some of the old forms that I used to write out over and over again. They've got to be, I'm sure they're in my files somewhere. Just have not had time to do it between work, and we had a new floor installed upstairs, which meant we had to take all the furniture downstairs. They put in the floor, which was really great. And then guess what? You got to take it all back upstairs. So that was exciting. And I believe I told my wife that if we have to put in a new floor again, we're probably just going to blow everything up and move to a retirement home. So, although maybe we'll try and give as much away to our children first before we go to that extreme. Okay, so here is a this looks at it in a different form. Here is the active tense, and the reason is even though there are differences, again, the endings, the base endings are the same across all of the vowel or all of the conjugations. What changes here are your conjugation vowel A, E, E, I in the case of the IO stems. Ooh, oh, did that get, ooh, that got, oh yeah, dash I stems. So as I said, those are exactly identical. Well, actually, all three are identical in this case, in the present. This is the imperfect active. And this shows the commonality.
Incredible.
And then this is passive present. Again, same, you know, all the endings are the same. The difference
Except
is,
second,
yeah,
second,
well,
second person singular for the IO and the fourth.
yeah, what I mean is that aside from the conjugation vowel, the endings are the same. But yeah,
It's
you're
got-
right. You have caperis, which is kind of an odd duck because you've gone copior, copitur, but is caperis. Hey, I wasn't there when they invented the language, so.
But
which
it
is
does
pro-
have the RIS, as you were saying.
Yeah, but the RIS is common across the board. The tour is common, the more, the mini, and the in tour. So the good news is, I hope, or at least for me anyway, I like to look for patterns because it makes it easier to memorize things. And so it helps in that if you memorize the ending, the basic endings, then you can, then all you got to do is figure out what the conjugation vowel is. And that's usually not all that hard because of the infinitive gives you a good hint what it is. All right. And of course, the same thing for the imperfect passive, the RS, auteur, RR. Oh, see, I did get it right there. Bar. So any questions there?
Michael, do you think it helps in memorizing this to play around with juxtaposing different tenses to try to help remember what they are? So you could take the imperfect and juxtapose it with the present, or you could take the passive and juxtapose it with the present active, and just as a way of trying to help you memorize all the
Oh,
endings.
yeah, you mean kind of like what some of the exercises in the book were.
Mhm.
Convert this from singular to plural or active to passive or yeah, I think what it will do is once you have the pretty good grasp of the conjugation, the basic conjugation down, it will help you facilitate in your own mind the changes in the meaning of that verb based on tense, active, and passive. You'll be able to recognize it quicker. So, for example, you may say laudabar. Okay, I was praising, or sorry, I was being praised, passive. And then you see laudabam, I was praising. So there's only one, yeah, there's only one letter difference. So yeah, when you switch through some of those, I think that'll help. I think it'll help speed your recognition. You know what I'm trying to say is well, let me put it this way. If you were to say laudabar and you say, okay, this is laudare, it's an A, it's a first conjugation. Okay, this is the passive ending for first person.
Michael?
If you're listening to it, that's too slow.
Michael?
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be Laudabamer, Laudabamini, and Laudabanter on the first?
Ooh, you know what? That is, oh, I got all the bas in there. Oh, well. Perhaps I was indulging. Oh my, thank you. Wow. You know what? I think I'm going to take your suggestion and throw some of those changes in. Wow. How did I miss that? Thank you. I can't believe I missed. Well, I do a lot of copying and pasting, and I must have totally messed that one up. I can't blame it on Microsoft because this is not a Microsoft computer and it's not a Microsoft application.
In our household, we say it's always good to have a second pair of eyes.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And I'm the first to admit I am terrible at proofreading my own stuff. I'm great at proofreading others, but hand it back to me and it's like, I knew what I was going to say. So, and I said it, right? Well, not always. Not always. Thank you. Oh, anyway, yeah. So yeah, Alex, I think that's actually not a bad suggestion. As I was saying, if you sit there and you kind of painfully parse each word, then that's okay initially. Don't get me wrong, but you want to be able to recognize it more easily and to distinguish it between the other forms. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. But as I said, concentrate on getting the form down first and the endings, and then you can start mixing and matching. Again, the exercises in the book often do that.
At first, I thought that's what you were doing.
No, that was not what I was doing. That was I must have been in some of that ba beer. Yeah, actually, more likely I was in a rush. Oh boy, I tell you, between work and home, it's been exciting. All right. I think I'm going to have to ask everybody to destroy the current notes, and I'll send these out again. Try and send them out again. I can't believe I did that. Wow. Oh well. Anyway. Okay. So, all right. What does these look like in use? Well, present, active, laudo dominum in ecclesia. I am praising the Lord in church. Dominus laudatur a me in ecclesia. The Lord is praised by me in church. Notice the in ecclesia, ablative, in the church. If it was in ecclesiam, then it would be into the church, which would not make any sense whatsoever. Imperfect active, laudabam dominum in ecclesia. I was praising the Lord in church. Dominus laudabatur a me in ecclesia. The Lord was praised by me in church. And again, in the passive, if it is a person, you use the ops and then the noun. You don't use you don't use just a simple ablative there, like the ablative of means. This is the ablative of what? Personal. I've forgotten what it is now.
Agency.
Agency. Thank you. That's it. Personal agency. So, all right. More examples. Johannes baptizat Jesum in Jordane. John is baptizing Jesus in the Jordan. Johannes baptizabat Jesum in Jordane. John was baptizing Jesus in the Jordan. So, yeah, you've heard the expression, it doesn't make an iota of difference. That had to do back originally with the Greek and the controversy over whether Jesus was of the same substance as the Father or a similar substance. And I don't remember the Greek word, but there was only one iota. When you spelled it out, there was an iota of difference. Well, this is a little more than an iota. This is a ba. So baptizat is baptizing. Baptizabat is was baptizing. Passive. Jesus baptizatur a Johanne in Jordane. Jesus is baptized by John in the Jordan. Jesus baptizabatur a Johanne in Jordane. Jesus was baptized by John in the Jordan. And I suddenly realized I was not consistent. I used the I, and then I stuck the J there. Well, see, who was the guy? I can't remember his name. Famous. Basically said consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. Shoot, who was it? Was it Wordsworth? Now that's heavily paraphrased. He actually had more to it than that. I think he said a foolish consistency. Yes.
Do you tend to see that ablative of agency more often in the passive?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, you could just say, Jesus baptizabatur in Jordane. Jesus was baptized in the Jordan. I mean, that's okay. But yeah, usually you often have a ablative of agency in there to distinguish who did it. Now, the exception of that are the deponent verbs. We haven't really covered those yet. A deponent verb is essentially a verb that acts like it's active voice, but the conjugation is passive voice. So what's a good example? Loquor, I speak, or I am speaking. Well, loquor, it has an OR ending. Well, that's a passive voice verb. So shouldn't loquor mean I am being spoken about or something? The answer is no. There's a handful of very important verbs that are treated conjugation-wise as if they are passive voice verbs. But in reality, they have an active voice meaning. Loquor, loquere, to speak. Sequor, to follow. Sequor, I follow. Those are the two that I can think of off. Confiteor, can't forget that one. The confiteor, I confess. Confiteor Deo omnipotenti. I confess to you, Almighty God. Let's see, is there any other biggies? I don't know if I can think of the top of my head. There's
Michael?
a number out there. Yeah.
On those deponent verbs, do they act the same way in the imperfect tense? Like the imperfect passive?
Yes.
In other words, so they would have a BATUR, but it would not be the passive, it would be the active. In other words, the deponent.
Right. Confiteor, I confess, or I am confessing. Confitie bomb, I was confessing.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. There's a number of linguistic theories as to why that shift is there. But I'm not going to get into those, partially because I don't remember what the argument was. Well, actually, the main reason is I don't remember what the argument was. But yes, it's across all the tenses, and there is no there is no active voice version of confiteor. There are, interestingly enough, a few deponent verbs that do have active voice forms, but it's a different verb. I mean, it's a different, oh, how do I want to say this? I can't think of any off the top of my head. But there's actually two verb forms that are related, and one is passive and it's deponent, and the other one is active, even though they both have an active meaning. I'll try and look one of those up one of these, some of those up one of these days. Okay. Oh, well, let's stick on imperfect tense. Any questions on how it's used, how it's formed, etc.? Nope. Okay. All right. Clauses. And I don't mean Santa Claus. Whoops. Left off my parentheses. There we go. Grammatical clauses. The book then all talks about clauses now. Kind of a definition. There's a couple different types. Don't worry too much about the types at the moment. That's, I mean, you know, grammarians have to pigeonhole everything that allows them to draw their salary and helps, you know, talking about it. But I will go through some of those just because the book mentions it and they're mentioned other places. Really what I recommend is you kind of think of what you mean in English or the way you would say it in English. And it pretty much maps well in Latin. Okay, clause. All right. What is a clause? And I don't mean in a contract. Well, actually, in a way, I suppose it is the same, kind of the same thing, isn't it, Alex? In a very broad sense. Anyway, clause is a group of words containing a subject, a predicate, and it functions as a member of a compound sentence of some sort. So what does that mean? Well, it just, excuse me. It's really two short sentences joined together. One is the independent part, which generally can stand alone by itself. The second is a dependent part, which needs the independent part in order to kind of set the tone or the quality of what's going on. So, examples. Because it rained, the picnic was postponed. Well, the picnic was postponed is a perfectly good independent statement or phrase in and of itself. So that is the independent clause, okay? So the bold part are the independent clauses here. That which is in italics is the dependent, because if I just said because it rained, you know, look, waiting for, okay, the other shoe to drop. Okay, you know, all right, fine. Because it rained, what happened? If I just said the picnic was postponed, you'd go, oh, bummer, you know, or maybe you'd be happy. I don't know. Maybe you don't like picnics, or maybe the mosquitoes were bad that day. Who knows? So for the dependent clause, it's got to have an independent clause in order to really, really make sense. We praise the Lord. Okay, that can stand alone, for he is holy. And again, if I just came up to you and said, we praise the Lord, you know, you'd probably think I was a Bible thumper, you know, trying to, I don't know. And, but if I said to you, for he is holy, you'd kind of look at me like, who, what? Same thing. Peter told the woman that he did not know Jesus. Peter told the woman, doesn't say what he told him, but that can stand alone by itself, that he did not know Jesus. So anyway, to restate it, the independent part can stand alone by itself, but the subordinate or the dependent is there to explain the context of the independent clause. The picnic was postponed. Why? Because it rained. Peter told the woman what? That he did not know Jesus. Okay. So, as I said, there's several types of clauses. There's adverbial. It's used like an adverb to show why something happened. Why it? Let's get rid of that. To show why something happened. Okay. And that not casual, but causal. Casual would be casual. So, yeah. Adjectival is it's used like an adjective to further identify the noun. Then there's also something called substantive, used in the place of a noun. So you kind of go, oh, we got all these different types. Well, yeah, but again, you don't need to focus so much on the terminology as just think about the way you would use it, okay? So adverbial, okay. It's a clause that essentially functions as an adverb. And it talks about the circumstances of the independent clause. Typical conjunctions are although, after, because, if, since, when, and while. So as I had the example, because it rained, the picnic was postponed. So here we have the circumstance that caused the picnic to be postponed. It was the rain. So you could say, well, I'm trying to make that into an adverb. Rainy. I guess that isn't going to work. But anyway, this, because it rained, doesn't modify picnic, okay? It modifies the verb postponed. And so it is an adverb, okay? I ran quickly down the street. Well, quickly is the adverb, and adverbs modify verbs just like adjectives modify nouns. So this is why it's called an adverbial clause. It's because you're hammering in on the verb here. So it's not, it's not as bad as it seems. Trust me. Would I lead you astray? All right, next one. If we had an adverbial clause, well, we have to have an adjectival clause. Adjectival clause. Is that right? Is there an extra I in there that I missed? No. Anyway, an adjectival clause is a clause that has a subject and a verb, but it functions as an adjective back on usually usually on the subject, but not necessarily. You see words like that, which, who, whom, relative pronouns. And as I said, it's used to describe the noun. That's why it's called an adjective. The picnic, which was rained out, was postponed. So the picnic is the noun. The adjective clause is which was rained out, because we're specifying which picnic it was. Not last week's picnic, not yesterday's picnic, but the picnic which was rained out, whenever that was. You can reform that as and see it more clearly as an adjective as the rained out picnic was postponed. So you can kind of see that rained out here is really an adjective. And all we've done is made this an adjective as well, but we've made it into a clause. Okay. You should not need to deal with this form until we get to relative pronouns. I think our relative pronouns, the next, let's see, is that unit 9? No, unit 9 is the future. Okay, it's unit 10 that I think is where they drop the relative pronouns on you. Yeah, there they are, unit 10. So you got a ways before you have to deal with them. And in this chapter, this unit, there aren't any that I'm aware of. Now, a substantive clause or a noun clause is a clause that can be used as a noun itself. It often means like that or where, and it's used to stand in as a noun to better define or refine a noun. So there, the old saying is that misery likes company. Well, the old saying, normally, this is the subject, then you'd have a predicate or a noun there. The sky is blue. The road is wet. So you're taking that noun that would normally be after the is, and you're expanding it out into something and using it as a noun here. So the old saying is that misery likes company. I asked where the church was located. So the question, the noun that I'm asking about is replaced with the actual question. Any questions so far?
Michael, is there a connection between causal clauses and these three, the adverbial, adjectival, and substantive clauses?
Okay, you mean as in, let's see.
I'm just trying to think, you started out by talking about the causal clause, like we praise the Lord because he is holy.
Yeah, I'm looking for the, okay, where did I have that?
I mean, I guess my question is.
Oh, here, yeah, here, causal clauses. I knew they were in here. Darn it. Next.
Oh, okay, so it's an adverbial clause.
Next
Okay.
slide. Yeah, it's we're really, yeah, and the book calls it a causal clause, and it's essentially the same as an adverbial clause. It's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. The picnic was postponed because it rained. Well, that's the cause. Whoops, that is the cause for the reason why the picnic was postponed. But again, it's adverbial in the sense that it's modifying the postponed. It wasn't the picnic that was raining, or rather, the picnic itself is not, well, how do I want to put that? The postponement was because of the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Picnic was not because of the rain.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, adverbial clause, the two are synonymous. And the book gives you 3 subordinating conjunctions. Isn't that a nice term, subordinating conjunctions? Sounds vaguely subversive, doesn't it? I'm subordinating your conjunctions. Yeah. Anyway, quia, quad, and quoniam. And then goes on to translate them all as because. And that's a good translates. I mean, that's a good way of translating them. He also hints at some of the subtleties there, because not all becauses are created equal. We're going to actually get into some of those. But so far, I think everybody understands at least the English side, right? Any questions? Okay. All right. He also mentions an indirect clause. And this is the type of clause that's used as a noun. Okay, well, an indirect clause then is the same as a substantive clause. Okay, same thing. Sometimes the noun in a substantive clause is the subject. More often it is the direct object. So, for example, he used to tell Peter he was a Christian. Dicebat, he used to tell, passive, imperfect, which we just had. Petro, he used to tell to Peter, quia Christianus erat. Now, he also has quod and quoniam as possibilities. There's some subtle differences between those three. I think I have that later. Yeah, I talk about that later. For the moment, let's just ignore that and just use quia, quod, and quoniam all as because. Okay. And as I said, I'll get to some of the subtleties. He said that Jesus was the Son of God. Dixit quoniam Jesus erat filius Dei. Notice that he used to tell Peter he was a Christian. That is the direct object. Peter is the indirect object. So I said these are often the direct object. He said that Jesus was the Son of God. Dixit quoniam Jesus erat filius Dei. He said what? That Jesus was the Son of God. So here it is, a direct object. Dixit, he said something. He said, Jesus, that he was the Son of God. Dixut Jesum, oops, that's, yeah, Dixut Jesum quoniam erat filius Dei. He said, Jesus, that he was the Son of God. Wait a minute, what am I missing? He said, Jesus, that he was. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm putting the that he in there and messing it up. He said Jesus was the Son of God. Yeah. Dixit Jesum quoniam erat filius Dei. Actually, the Latin made more sense to me there. He said Jesus was the Son of God. So again, this is the direct object. Okay. Sometimes you can use it as a subject. Let's see. Do I have any? Okay, I guess I don't have any subject examples in there. Well, let's just stop there for a second. Any questions?
In the text, Michael,
Yeah.
it has this dixit quod est Christianus, and they say that means he said that he was a Christian. And
oh, let me find the exact page.
It's on page 69 of the text.
Yeah, I seem to recall that particular phrase in the book. All right, come on, one last one.
See, we've been using erat, but in this case, they use the present tense, and I'm just curious about that.
This was on page 69.
Yeah, there's a box.
Okay, Deco.
Note number 4.
Oh, 4. Primary tense in the direct may be retained. Okay, yeah, oh boy.
Well, if this is.
Yeah, this is where you get into the sequence of tenses.
Well, I assume then, just based on what you were just saying, you could just as easily say Dixit quod erat Christianus.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, you can substitute the est for erat. In this case, let's take English for a moment. He said he is a Christian. Well, that event took place sometime in the past when this guy said that, right? He said he is a Christian. You can also say, he said he was a Christian. Again, applying back at that time, he said at that time he was a Christian. So you can have some, usually the main clause anchors the time of the event. And then the other subordinate clauses, the verbs of the subordinate clauses around there, you can fill in, and they're generally relative to the main clause. So you can actually say it both ways in English and in Latin. He said he is a Christian. He said he was a Christian. You could argue when you say he said he was a Christian, that implies that maybe he was back then, but is not now. Again, you'd have to have the full context. But yes, you could use erat or est, as the case may be in that question. And he even says may be retained after a secondary main verb. So, make sense?
Yeah, that last one, he said Jesus. That's not the same thing as he said to Jesus, right? Since this is the accusative.
Yeah, I know. He's actually, he said Jesus was the Son of God. Dicut Jesum quoniam erat filius Dei. He said Jesus, boy. Well, actually, let me come up to the use of quia, quod, and quoniam in a minute. Maybe that'll be helpful. That's why I have that he, because the quoniam is let's distinguish the three here before I go down get too far off the path here. And we're running out of time anyway, so maybe that's a good thing, because I do want to take 2 weeks. Normally we would hit the exercises right away, but I would like to take 2 weeks for this unit because there's a lot crammed into it. So, but anyway, getting back to the subject, how are quia, quod, and quoniam used? There's slight differences between the three. I wouldn't get too hung up on it. As long as you are reading Latin, it's not a big deal. Okay. If you're writing Latin, then that's a different story. You don't want to be, have ungrammatical Latin. You'll not get a very good seat at the Vatican, and other horrible things will happen. But for the moment, you're basically reading Latin. They all mean, and because, okay, they are the reason for the independent part. We don't always use the word because. We sometimes use the word that. And we use a couple of other words, we showed you, that and where and which and whom and whoops, there we go. So, so when you're reading, just stick the word in there that makes the most sense. But basically, quia always introduces a fact. Do tell me that oh, that's right. That's the example. Okay, sorry. Quia always introduces a fact. Okay. The ground is wet because it rained. Okay. There's the fact is stated, cause, rain, effect is wet ground. Okay. So ager undus est quia pluvit. The field is wet because it rained. Okay. So quia is usually best rendered as because, or even for. You could say the ground is wet for it rained. Okay. That's one of the fun things about conjunctions is there's a lot of different flavors you can use to express essentially the same basic thought. So anyway, for those cases which state an exact fact, quia is usually used. And again, emphasis on the usually. That's why I said those three words overlap a lot. And here's our example, the Regina Caeli. I mentioned this a couple times since this is the season for it. Second part, Gaude et laetare Virgo Maria, Alleluia, quia sorrexit Dominus vere, Alleluia. Oh, I forgot the quia, sorry. Regina Caeli laetare, quia quem meruisti portare. Queen of heaven, rejoice, for he whom you merited to bear, give birth to. We haven't had the quem yet, but the relative pronoun, but don't worry about it. So this is a statement, flat out statement. Rejoice for he whom you did merit to bear. It's a fact that Mary was the mother of Jesus, okay? Hence the quia. Gaude et laetare Virgo Maria, quia sorrexit Dominus vere. Rejoice and be glad, O Virgin Mary, for the Lord has truly risen. So there's good examples of the quia use. And we are out of time. Yes.
Oh, I was just going to ask, the hymn Attende Domine et miserere, quia peccavimus tibi.
Yep.
Would that be an example of, so you're offering an explanation, you're asking, Lord, for mercy because we're sinning against you or something like that?
Yeah, quia peccavimus tibi, because we have sinned against you. Yeah, that's exactly what that phrase means. Yeah. And
so,
there's no...
it helps offer an explanation it helps explain the first part of the...
Yes. Yes. And it is expressed with quia, which indicates that it is a fact. Okay. It's that particular hymn is not, there are no quislings in that hymn. Okay.
Right.
It's flat out stating it. And I'm just going to hit for a moment quad. Introduces a fact or a subjective statement. Okay. And then we'll tidy up here because it's 9 o'clock. It is his fault that the plant died. Again, you can render it as that, in that, the fact that, or because, which is pretty well close. Quia and quad are pretty close. So if it is an exact fact, quad or quia can be used. But if it is subjective, then quad is preferred over quia. And later on, we're going to see it usually takes the subjunctive. We haven't had the subjunctive yet. So, but the point is that quad is not as, quad leaves some wiggle room, shall we say. Anyway, we'll end it there. We will come back. Let's see. Let's not bother. Well, I'll tell you what, I want you to start in on the Unit 8 exercises. Okay, I want you to read Unit 8, and I want you to get the verb forms down for the present and imperfect, active and passive. If you have time, start the Unit 8 exercises. I will probably throw up some texts next time. I haven't quite decided what I want to do, but I do want to, I want to go over this again, not chart by chart or table by table like we had it last time, but I want to emphasize or highlight some of that, and then I want to continue with the clauses. Yeah, so with that, I will mute everybody and we will start in our concluding prayer here, or finish up with our concluding prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum. Adveniat regnum tuum. Fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimite nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimitimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. All right, I will we'll stop the class. I will stay online a little bit longer.